Room. Joining us now is Democratic State Senator Dave Marsden. He is from the 37th District. Senator, great to have you with us.
It's good to be here, John. Thanks.
Now, hey, we're kind of fired up because although Republicans had their state convention in Richmond, all the nominees are set, but on the Democratic side, you got a big race for Lieutenant Governor Anish Chopra, who got out to the early lead, started early, but now state senator from the Hampton Roads area, Ralph Northam, closing fast. We predict that he's going to win. What do you think?
Oh, I think so. John, I think that what's happened here is that, folks, who got out early certainly gathered some support and some interest. But when people started really looking at this closely in terms of the experience level, the success level that Ralph Northam has had in the Senate, the respect that he has, I've been on the phone this past week with a number of people from the Richmond business community, and for an event that I have coming up, and the support is almost universal. They like working with this guy, and primarily because he's thoughtful and he listens, and that goes a long way down in Richmond.
I think it does. I have talked to a number of state senators on both sides of the aisle who have a great deal of respect for Senator Northam, and they basically, Senator Marsden told me the same thing, that you can have a conversation with him, you can have a dialogue. He'll talk to two sides of the aisle. Now, look, here's the bottom line. The Republicans nominated Bishop E.W. Jackson. He is a decided underdog for Republicans in this race. He's made some outrageous statements that I would expect are going to be all over TV. He's a huge underdog. So our view is that chances are, right now, if you play the odds, the Democratic nominee for LG is going to be likely the favorite going into this race. And as a state senator yourself, do you think that if Ralph Northam was there, that he would work across the aisle and try to get things done in a nonpartisan way for the benefit of Virginia?
Well, clearly that is something that Ralph does very, very well. I think he could be a real communicator between the governor and Republicans and Democrats in the Senate. And, he is a Democrat, and certainly he will be meeting with Democratic senators. But he has the ability to take what we're thinking on the Democratic side of the aisle and conveying that to the Republican side of the aisle and getting the discussion going, because he's just a trusted communicator.
What do you think of the Republican candidate, Bishop E.W. Jackson?
Well, clearly, he deserves all the respect that a major party lieutenant governor candidate gets. He was chosen by folks in the Republican Party through a process that they chose, which was a convention. Now, the concern that I have is that Mr. Jackson is sort of clawing his way backwards into the 18th century with some of his thinking. And unfortunately, there are folks who are willing to go there with him. But I don't think that's the majority of Virginians. I think the majority of Virginians are like Senator Ralph Northam, and they want to hear both sides of the issue. They want to listen. They want to be thoughtful. They want to make decisions that'll take Virginia forward, make it a better place to work and live, work on jobs, work on the economy, and making sure that people are treated with fairness and that our justice system works well. There's an awful lot that goes into this, and Ralph just has the experience to get it done. He's familiar with hundreds and hundreds of issues that you have to deal with, and I'm very confident that he is someone who can make the case to Virginians and defeat Mr. Jackson.
When you look at the Northam campaign, they're obviously going to be outspent by Chopra. How do you, in these final weeks, overcome the spending gap?
Well, I think what I'm seeing happen, and with folks like me, I've been at events this past week speaking on behalf of Ralph, because he couldn't be there. You can't be everywhere in Virginia at the same time. And you just make the business case. This is someone who can help Terry McAuliffe in the Tidewater area bring out votes because of the deep respect people have for Ralph. His experience is such that you make the case with folks that this is somebody who's not going to be learning on the job. He's going to be able to hit it from day one and be able to make a serious contribution to moving our agenda forward in the state Senate and in the Commonwealth.
For Democrats, do you think that Senator Northam would make a better candidate against E.W. Jackson, and why?
I do. I think it is a question. Both the gentlemen are from the Tidewater area, so I think the comparisons get somewhat easier. I think Ralph's background as a veteran, a doctor who's operated on our troops in Desert Storm, somebody who graduated from Virginia Military Institute, who's been a hunter, been a fisherman, somebody who I think Virginians can identify with, that he will understand them. Sometimes politics is about that feeling you get about someone, that he's going to listen, that he's going to understand what you have to say, and that's the most important thing. And I think it's pretty clear that Mr. Jackson has made his mind up about just about everything, and that he's not willing to listen. And that's critical, and that's why I think Ralph would have a distinct advantage.
Now, Senator Marsden, I'm a Republican. I'm going to participate in the June 11th Democratic primary. I've called on Republicans and independents to get involved in it because I believe this is a critical race. How do you feel if Republicans and independents get involved and they choose one of your two candidates on June the 11th?
Well, of course, we have an open primary system, and I'm fine with people voting in sort of the other side's primaries if what they have is the best interests of Virginia at heart. Not just to do it for, we want to bolster the candidate we think we can beat. That's wrong. But if it's a question of we need to help someone get into office who is the most qualified, and if we're having some real second thoughts about the candidate that we would have normally supported from the party we normally support, then that's a good thing because, let's face it, John, we're all Virginians first.
Right.
Democrat, Republican, that comes second, and I think we have to make those decisions, and Virginians generally do.
This is the John Fredericks Show. We're with State Senator Dave Marsden. He's a Democrat in Virginia representing the 37th District. That's in Northern Virginia. Senator Marsden, let me ask you this. The race that's going to be decided on June the 11th, if Republicans and independents do get involved, and let's say Senator Northam were to win and then go on to defeat E.W. Jackson in November, then his Senate district would become open. There are some Democrats who are saying, hey, you're better off with Chopra because if Northam wins, that Senate district becomes open and it's a swing district, and maybe Republicans will win that. How do you answer that?
Well, the first obligation any of us have, John, is to get the best people into public office. Trying to game the system down the road as to how things work. I believe we can hold on to that seat. We have some excellent candidates in that area. Delegate Linwood Lewis from the Eastern Shore, former Delegate Paula Miller from Norfolk. But that's not the point here. The point is you put your best people in office and you let the chips fall where they may, because that's how Virginia gets to be the best managed state in the country, the best place to do business, and a child born in this state has the best chance of success of any place in the country, any state in the country, based on Education Magazine. That's where you put your priorities. Get the best people in office.
Now, Senator Marsden, about a week ago, your gubernatorial presumptive nominee, Terry McAuliffe, put a TV ad up basically taking credit that he was somehow involved in getting Democrats in the state Senate to get behind the Transportation Compromise Bill of 2013 that, by the way, we were an enthusiastic supporter of for too many reasons I don't want to get into now. But then your colleague from Henrico County, Senator Walter Stosh, jumped on it and said, hey, Terry McAuliffe had absolutely no involvement in that bill. Now, I've talked to senators who have said that their involvement was with former governor and now U.S. Senator Tim Kaine, but I can't find anybody that has said that McAuliffe was involved in that. Stosh said that it was a disingenuous ad. How do you respond to that, Senator?
Well, I believe Terry was in touch with our leadership in the Senate. That's the impression I have, and I know that he picked up the phone and called Governor McDonald. Said, "What can I do?" I think that's showing leadership. There's only so much you can do when you're not, currently holding elective office. But he did get engaged. he had reached out to Lieutenant Governor Bill Bolling, and there's certainly limits as to what you can do from the outside, but I think he sure made a good effort at making himself heard on an issue that is usually controversial in Virginia, that of raising taxes. And so I applaud him for that.
Senator Marsden, there's been a lot of Democrats that I've talked to that are wringing their hands over the McAuliffe campaign as it stands now, and they fear a major enthusiasm gap in November that Terry McAuliffe simply hasn't inspired the base. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's a question of people not knowing Terry yet and making a lot of assumptions based on some of his former role, with his former role as DNC chair and the fundraising and spokesman role he had for the Democratic Party. But this is a knowledgeable guy. This is somebody who knows how to get things done. He's been a very successful businessman. Mark Warner came into political office, their backgrounds are not necessarily similar, but at the same time, he came in and through sheer force of will and wanting to learn and wanting to help and wanting to get things done for Virginia, became very, very effective. I think once people get to know Terry's passion, again, Terry is another one who likes to listen. He's very forthcoming, and I think he is someone that, as people get to know better, they will feel much more comfortable with. Senator
Marsden, what do you think of this whole green tech mess?
Don't know too much about it. I know that the decision was made to go to Mississippi because I think the state was more engaged in creating an environment that a business venture such as green tech could succeed in. Anytime you're trying to go into the car business, boy, that's risky stuff. And especially when you're trying to get into a car business that is is part making automobiles and part trying to improve our environment. That's risky stuff. And Terry took those gambles. And you hear stories on both sides of the issue here as to how hard he pursued Virginia and how responsive Virginia was. The word I get is that we weren't particularly interested in getting engaged with green tech. So the bottom line is here's a guy trying to create jobs in America and make it work and improve the environment and make some progress for us. I think that's a good thing.
Now, we had Senator John Miller on the other day. We asked him point blank if the Democrats win the lieutenant governor's race, if they would entertain a power share. And John Miller, like I do, he doesn't mince words. His answer was no way. Do you share that view?
It would depend. I think what we need to do is sit down. At some point in time, you got to stop the gunfight. I think that's what Virginians, expect. Do we take the elevator to the bottom floor in retaliation for the rather abysmal way that the Democratic senators were treated last time around? As you'll remember, John, in 2007 when we took over, nobody got taken off major committees.
That's right.
We had to make some adjustments, but every courtesy was put forth. And that was not returned, this time. Now, we can't be naive and we can't be foolish, but at the same time, we do need to sit down and say, hey, can we get things back to where they have been in the past, which are a far better time when people on both sides of the aisle were treated well, treated fairly, that we stuck to some kinds of rules on how committees were assigned and what have you. If we can get back to that, I'm all for it. But if not, if we don't get those indications, then you know how the system works.
So, Senator Marsden, it sounds like what you're saying is that if the Democratic candidate for lieutenant governor does indeed win, that you guys might be open to exploring taking the high road. And because one of the things that I said to Senator Miller is when the Republicans took control of the state, the Senate, many of them came on my show, they went absolutely ballistic for like 2 weeks. And so my question to Senator Miller was, well, two wrongs don't make a right. What I'm hearing you say is that the Democratic caucus might be open to taking the high road in this.
Well, I can't speak for everybody in my caucus. I know I'm willing to look at it. We have got to, this state is more divided today than it has ever been. and part of that is the economic disparities that exist around the state that ended up getting reflected in political activity. And we need to start setting an example of people learning how to get along with their differences and learning how to set down ways of doing business that allow us to get to the real business of making laws here in the Commonwealth and creating an effective budget to get things done. And if we can get all of those side issues on politics and who's on what committee and who's in charge and all of those things, if we can get that dealt with fairly and appropriately, then we can move on and do the important things. And that's always worth taking a look at.
Senator, I'm going to give you the final word. Make a prediction. Northam, Chopra, June the 11th. Who wins?
I think Ralph. I think it's clearly trending that way because people are looking at this, I think, with their heads and realizing that this job takes experience. This job takes something with a proven track record. Here's a guy who helped get rid of smoking in restaurants, who's dealt with obesity issues with kids, who's looked after the Menhaden population of fish in the Chesapeake Bay, which is the beginning of the food chain on the Atlantic coast. This is a guy who, stuck up for an overreach when women's rights were being challenged on this ultrasound bill that wasn't very well thought through by the other side. This is a guy with a proven track record. This is a guy who people like because he listens, pays attention to the details, and is not afraid to make the tough calls. And I think Ralph Northam will be an excellent lieutenant governor, and I predict that he will win on June 11th.
Well, we're going to find out. I want to tell my audience that the John Fredericks Show, my co-anchors Ben Tribbett and Norm Leahy, we will be bringing you live election night coverage on June 11th. All the details will be on thejohnfredericksshow.com. Now, my final question. Will you be there, Senator?
I would love to be there. So I'd like to come by and meet you. We've never met in person. I just really appreciate the fact that you've got a show that takes a listen to both sides of issues, and that's an important thing to keep that going in Virginia. So thanks for the work you do, and we'll see you on June 11th.
All right, sir. We'll be there, and we'll get your take on the air. State Senator Dave Marsden from Virginia, 37th District. We appreciate his time. This is the John Fredericks Show.